that's a sexy outfit, I'm not gonna lie. Hello YouTube, DSN here, and today we're going to talk about the difference between 600cc and litre bikes. And if you're sort of looking for a new bike and you don't know which one you should get, you know, then we'll just have a chat about it, see what I think, and let you know. So first things first, obviously there's a lot of differences between the two bikes. The litre bikes have generally more power, but for that they're heavier. You know, because the engine's bigger, the suspension's bigger, they weigh more. That's the sort of compromise that you make. On top of that, they have more mass, just generally the size of them, they just generally tend to be bigger bikes than the 600s. Because the engine, you know, like I said, everything's bigger. Aside from that, physically riding the bikes, that's really where the main difference comes from. You pull the throttle back, you go a little quicker, and you turn into a corner, it's a little bit heavier. When you brake, there's a little bit more weight. Now, the other big difference a lot of the time is the gearing, and this is something that I really have grown to love. Is that the gearing on the 1000 bikes are longer because there's more power, the gearings are more open, and what that translates to is that you're not bashing up and down the gearbox as much in 1000. You know, you can cruise along in one gear and you've got the power there whenever you need it. Whereas on the 600 you're sort of going up and down the gearbox, keeping you've got to work to keep the power there ready. That dog is not coming out, well done. So, you know, a lot of this comes down to the right bike for the right rider. If you're a tiny little guy that can barely get his feet on the floor, you're going to want the 600 because they're normally a little lower to the floor, they're a little lighter, and they're a little easier to handle. Whereas if you're a big guy like me, I'm 6'6" and 15 stone. So the bigger the bike, the better. When it, you know, for me, having the bigger bike is an absolute blessing because it means I've got a little bit more leg room. I can put my back up a little more, and the weight doesn't really bother me that much. The other things you want to take into note really are, you know, sort of general running costs, the fuel and insurance distraction. On the 1000cc bikes, it's going to be more. It's going to use more fuel because it's got a bigger engine, and the insurance is going to be higher because it's a bigger bike. So once you take all this, you know, sort of into account, and you go, right, well, you know, maybe I'll be more comfortable on the bigger bike, or maybe I'm more comfortable on the smaller bike. And you look at, you know, financially, can I afford the fuel and the, you know, can I afford the insurance and the fuel? The answer to whether you should be on a 600 or a 1000cc bike starts to become quite apparent. Now, the people that I speak to that are sort of looking at new bikes, and I always say, I'm looking at the 600 this and 600 that. So I say, you know, you're quite a big fellow. Have you looked at the Thou? Oh, I couldn't ride a Thou. I've only been riding for 2 years. You know, I couldn't handle it. You know, I don't need the 1000cc bike yet. It's really not that much to worry about. You know, riding, if you can ride a 600cc bike comfortably, within a week of owning a 1000cc bike, you'll be able to ride that comfortably as well. I've come off, well, I had a 1100 Blackbird in between, but I came off a CBR 600RR, and, you know, I used to get on my mate's 1000 RRs, and they're fine. The only difference is they weigh a little more, so they corner a little slower. And when you pull the throttle back, you've got more juice. You know, it's getting used to the gearing and the feel of the bike in the bends. But it's not like, you know, when it comes to basic bike control, you know, pulling away from junctions, stopping, going, you know, they're not that different. You just have to treat the bike with respect. And that's what it comes down to. Whatever bike you're on, I know tiny, tiny little women that ride Pan Ams, you know, these massive Harleys, And they're tiny, their feet can barely touch the floor, but they ride the bike properly, they understand, you know, what the bike's capable of, and they treat you with a bit of respect, and they're fine, they get used to it. So don't let the fact that it's a 1000cc sports bike scare you. You know, if you ride a 600cc sports bike like an idiot, it's going to kill you eventually. You know, you'll run out of lives, and when you come off, it's, you know, you pull the throttle back on a 600cc sports bike, it's going to go, and you'll be doing 130, 140 miles an hour in no time at all. And that speed, you can die very happily. The only difference is, on a litre bike, you're going to be doing 10 miles an hour more. The bike's going to be 20 kilograms heavier, probably more, and it's just all goes that little bit more wrong. Wow, what fantastic English that was. All goes a little bit more wrong, a little bit more quickly. But what I'm saying is, if you ride any bike with respect, you're going to be alright on it, and you're going to get used to it. If you ride any bike like an idiot, it's probably going to kill you. And, you know, so if you're thinking about, do I want to get on 1000, weigh all this information up, and then go out and get on them. Have a feel for it, give it a try, you know. Garages are more than happy to let you go out on their, you know, out on their demo bikes. That's what they're for. They're bikes for demonstrating. Go and have yourself a demonstration. See how you get on with it, and if you enjoy the bike, there you go. Answers the question for you, doesn't it? So I'm going to love you and leave you all, guys. It's been a pleasure, and I'll see you soon.